Welcome to this lecture. We're now going to look at the UK economy in charts. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put on the screen a chart showing a particular aspect of the economy. Remember, the state of the economy. We've talked about if you print money, you've got spare capacity, high unemployment, less likely to cause inflation, for example. So the state of the economy will heavily influence what policies are introduced and also the likely success or failure of those policies. And to help you understand, because you've already heavily participated in discussion about suggestions for the budget, I hope. You've heavily participated in raising taxes, cutting public spending, printing money, modern monetary theory, I hope. Then you can look at these charts with me and we talk through these charts, and that will help you understand state of the, in this case, UK economy. But the same could be applied to your country, because part of learning and studying and developing your understanding of economics is being able to understand and interpret charts. So let's look at the first one. This chart, the Office of Budget Responsibility, said in November that GDP would return to pre-COVID, this is November 2020, pre-COVID levels by 2022. As a base, we're taking the fourth quarter of 2019. And we can see that the red line shows actual GDP. Now, it's very important when looking at charts that we realize the difference between actual and forecast. Before the pandemic hit us in the UK and also worldwide, the blue line shows the forecast for GDP. You can see steadily rising. Fourth quarter 2019 was 100. But we can see also in 2018 it was around about 97.5, and these are index numbers, predicted to grow by 2024, 2025 to about 100, in terms of index points, index number points, about 108. This is before the pandemic. Now look at the actual GDP. After GDP, gross domestic product, shrank by 9.9% in 2020, that's the worst performance for over 300 years, worst performance since 1709. The economy is under huge pressure at the start of 2021 as the lockdown bites. You're at home, you might be buying over the internet, but you're certainly not going out into towns, cities, drinking loads of coffee, having lots of sandwiches, going to nightclubs, pubs, clubs, restaurants, theatre, cinema, gyms. Certainly not going out spending money on those services. So in the UK, currently, we're now in March 2021, we're still in the middle of a tough lockdown. But there has been progress. Millions have had the vaccine. AstraZeneca, the Oxford vaccine, or the one from Pfizer. And this paves the way for a swift recovery. Look at the actual GDP and then the November forecast. 2021, swift recovery, and look, by 2025, it's not that far away from the pre-pandemic forecast. So a swift recovery later in the year. Certainly the economy performed better than forecast in November as businesses adapt. People are not coming so much to my vegetable shop. I sell fruit and veg, but hang on, I think I sell takeaway coffees and teas. Oh, they can come and have takeaway coffees and teas. I wonder if I can help sell teas and coffees to people if I put up some sort of beer garden without the beer, or some sort of covering, or maybe use public benches for people to sit on. Maybe I should develop my website, maybe develop my delivery service. So businesses are adapting with GDP 7.8% below its pre-virus level at the end of 2020, compared with an estimate of 12%. So GDP 7.8% below, not as bad as 12%, gives greater confidence, greater certainty, more likely to encourage consumption, more likely to encourage investment, more likely to encourage employment. The key remaining question is how long the economy would take to recover its pre-crisis peak, and also how great is the damage. The Office of Budget Responsibility had previously thought it'd be about a 3% permanent hit from COVID by 2025. Now let's look at UK public finances and borrowing. Borrowing in 2020 to 2021 was estimated in November 2020 as 19% of GDP. So let's have a look at the chart. In red we see public sector net borrowing. See, it's increasing and then falling. But November forecast is going to rocket, and then you can see the pre-pandemic forecast in blue. Official figures put the budget deficit, that's the gap between spending and income, at £271 billion for the first 10 months of the financial year. Now, that's the official figures. This is based on the forecast as well as the November forecast. Also from the graph, you can see the pre-pandemic forecast and public sector net borrowing. Now, in terms of the financial year, there's only 2 months left. So the final sum is expected to be below the 394 billion Office of Budget Responsibility estimate made last November. Now, if the amount you borrow is less than expected, then that's likely to bring confidence, just as if spending is less than expected, that's likely to take away confidence. Now, I mentioned the Office of Budget Responsibility. The link is going across the screen. I'm just going to digress just for a couple of minutes. We're going to look at their website, the Office of Budget Responsibility. They say on their website, and I quote, "The economy is set to rebound thanks to rapid vaccine rollout, getting back to its pre-pandemic peak by the middle of next year, 2022. Extending rescue measures takes support for households, businesses and public services to £344 billion. Generous tax incentives for business investment stoke the recovery over the next 2 years. Then medium-term tax rises and cuts to spending plans all but balance day-to-day spending with revenues and see underlying debt fall relative to national income. But risks remain from the virus, legacy costs of public services and future interest rates." Now, on the subject of interest rates, this has come up in the question and answer section for this course a couple of times. If interest rates are raised to perhaps to try and ensure that inflation doesn't rise, then the exchange rate would rise, making exports more difficult, imports more competitive. Also, if interest rates rise, mortgages are more expensive and therefore demand for houses is likely to fall. Savings might be encouraged if interest rates rise. Consumption is likely to fall, leading to a negative multiplier effect. I save, I don't spend. I don't spend, I don't buy from you. You lose your job. So it's as well to be aware of what the Office for Budget Responsibility website shows, because I'm going to be mentioning or referring to the OBR throughout the rest of this lecture on these charts.